Hi one and all. So in the previous class we discussed on publishing using publish utility, and at a high level just we briefed about orchestrator server, right? Okay. So in today's class objective is we shall learn in detail about orchestrator server. More specifically, we shall see what are the components that will be there in the orchestrator server and the roles of those components that we will discuss in today's class. That is the objective of today's class. Clear? So before jumping into this objective of today's class, we shall have a recall about the concepts that we learned in the previous class. So what we learned in the previous class is we learned how to publish our workflow using the utility called publish utility, which is given in UiPath Studio, right? So more specifically, we learned the steps that need to be followed by the RPA developer in order to publish their work generally using the publish utility given in the UiPath Studio, right? And what we will get once we publish our workflow or our work generally, then we learn something about a file called JSON. We shall see what is the use of JSON. Okay. Then if that does not work, we also learned how we can able to do that manually. I mean how we can able to upload our work manually, and what are the steps that has to be followed, right? So we also learned this. And then once we what I can say upload our workflow to the orchestrator server, then how we can able to configure our robot using the JSON file. So more specifically, we learned how we can able to write or edit the JSON file once our workflow has been published into a package. Remember, see, package is nothing but the published workflow. So once we publish our workflow, then it will be called as a package. Don't get confused with workflow and the package. So first what we will do, what the RPA developer will do, they will develop the project. We call that project as a workflow. That's all. Project as a workflow, or call that as a project itself. Once you upload this project either automatically or manually, then this project will become package. Clear? I hope now you understood the difference between project or workflow and a package. So once the project has been uploaded, okay, either automatically or manually to the orchestrator server, then it will be called as a package. So once it becomes package, and if you want to do any configuration, then you have to edit the JSON file. And we also learned how to do this and what are the steps that has to be followed by the RPA developer. We learned in the last class, right? So remember, this is only a subset. It is not a complete content of the JSON file, right? And at a high level, we discussed about orchestrator server. Okay, basically it is a web server. Remember, basically it is a web server. Since it is a web server, its job is to host the robots and to control or to monitor those robots which has been hosted in the web server. Clear? Then the different types of robots that we can able to put into the servers are front office robot and back office robot. We also have learned what is front office and back office robot. So this is the objective of today's class. We shall see which are the some of the components present in the orchestrator server. Okay, orchestrator server, and the responsibility of let us assume this as orchestrator server. And now we are learning what are the components that will be there in the orchestrator server, and the roles or the responsibility of each and every components present in the orchestrator server. Clear? So at a high level, the author is telling that this orchestrator server will have three layers. One is user interface layer. It's also called, basically it is a web application whose job is to provide an interface to the user to use the services provided by the orchestrator server. Or make it simple, that is an interface that will be used by the user in order to access orchestrator server. Clear? I will show you in the coming class how it will looks, how the interface it looks. Basically it is a web application. At this time, if I want to give a simple example, it is like similar to accessing your Gmail account, right? Where you will access Gmail account in the web browser, right? Similarly here, the same kind of interface will be given here to access the orchestrator server to the user. And the second layer is called web services layer. As the name itself says, this layer is responsible to provide different services depending on the requirement. It provides queue services. We shall see what is the job of queue here: configuration services, deployment services, logging services, monitoring services, etc. And there is one more interesting layer called persistent layer, and the job of this layer is to hold the data. SQL Server job is to hold the data, and Elasticsearch, there is one more component present in the persistence layer, and the job of this Elasticsearch is to provide the searching facility. Clear? Searching facility. So with this we shall go one by one. We shall see what is the job of a queue in orchestrator server. I hope you already have heard the word called queues, right? Basically it is a first in first out data structure, correct? So now first we shall go through the idea of what I can say the author, then we shall see what is the actual use of queues here. According to the author, queues will work as a container, it seems, that stores task basically, okay, that need to be implemented. Basically queue, you can treat it as a data structure or a container which will hold a task, okay, that has to be processed by the orchestrator server. Clear? Okay. So the author is giving a simple example here. Imagine that a group of boys standing in a queue in front of ticket counter in a theater. So how in those case, how the persons in the queue will be processed? In the first, who the person who is in first gets out the ticket and he will comes out first. Exactly in the same way. So whenever the task has been handed over to the server, and if the server is busy, a queue will be maintained in the server, and obviously the first task will enter here, second task will be entered here, next task will be entered here. From the rear end, queue will have front end and the rear end, right? So task will be entered to the queue, and what the orchestrator server will do, it will refer the queue in order to process the task present inside this queue in first out order. That's what the author is telling here, and this is a job that is being done by queue here. So that's what the author is telling here. Similarly, in the case of robots, when we have a number of operations or tasks that are to be performed, and when the server is busy, then those tasks will be moved into a queue, and they are implemented in first out order. That's what I said. Basically it is used to what I can say, process the task by the server. Clear? Even you have learned this in operating system. The CPU will maintain the queue in order to schedule the process that has been assigned to the process. Exactly the same scenario here. Clear? Okay. And this is one interface. Specifically it has shown queue interface. So this is how actually what I can say, the server interface will be given to the user. See, can you see here, place here, where you can add the new queue, and you can able to see the existing queue. There is already two queues here, second and first one, and the description of those queues and the status of the respective queues will be displayed here. That's what the author is telling here. To create a new queues, search for the queue option in the orchestrator server listed on the left hand side, and then inside the queue page, okay, you can add one. I mean, before adding one, make sure that whether that queue is already present or not. That's it. So it also allows you to access all those queues that have already been created. As I said, it contains some information about the task, such as remaining time, process time, average time, description, and so on. Basically it will give the queue status respective. See, this row will give the queue status called second. This row will give the queue status called first, like that. Okay, first one, sorry, like this. Clear? So, and there is one more interesting feature, it seems. We can also add queue items, I mean the task. Queue items is basically task from UiPath Studio also. And there are various activities that support this feature, it seems. Make it simple. So these are the activities that will be used by the RPA developer in order to deal with queue from UiPath Studio. So where you will fetch this activity? From the activities panel. You already familiar with the UiPath Studio tool, right? There will be activities panel, and there will be a search filter here. Just type add queue item, then it will list the respective activities in the activity panel. Drag and drop it to the designer panel. This is how the author is telling here. So now we shall see the responsibility of these activities. So add queue item, as the name itself says, this activity is used to add a new item to the queue. Where the queue will be there, obviously the orchestrator, right? The status of the item will be new, obviously. Add transaction item, this activity is used to add an item to the queue to begin transaction and set the status as in progress. Here we can add custom reference for each respective transaction. Okay, so basically if you want to add any transaction item to the queue, then you can make use of this activity. So get transaction item, as the name itself says, if you want to retrieve or get an item from the queue, okay, to process it, then you need to and set then you have to use this get transaction item activity, and it will set the status of that respective item as an in progress, or it will be similar to the what I can say status of the queue also. So postpone transaction item. So this activity is used to define time parameters between which transaction should be processed. Here basically we will specify the time interval after which a process will start. So just postponing by specifying the time. Okay, what you are postponing, the task that has to be implemented, right? So set transaction progress. So as the name says, the status used to assist and create custom progress status for in progress transaction to notify its progress if the process crashes. So this activities plays a significant role in tackling troubleshooting process. So just setting the transaction progress status, then you have to use an activity called set transaction progress. Especially this activity will be used for troubleshooting the process, it seems clear. So set transaction status used to modify the status of the transaction item, whether successful or unsuccessful. So to set the status, you need to use the activity called set transaction status. So this is another interesting what I can say component that will be there in the orchestrator server. So basically now we shall see what is the use of this particular component. So assets work as variables or credentials and can be used in different automation projects, it seems. So basically asset job is to store the variables or credentials. Credential means usually a password and the username and etc and so on, that will be stored in these assets, which can be accessed by different automation projects, right? Understood? Okay. Assets provide the opportunity to hold specific information, as I said, in the form of a variable or in the form of a credentials. So this information can be easily accessed by the robot, as I said. Those information can be accessed by the automation projects. The assets activity can be found in the activities panel. Obviously, there's a screenshot here. Just type assets. But to get these activities, you need to make sure that the UiPath Studio has been connected to the orchestrator server. Then only you will get this particular activities. Otherwise, these activities will not be seen in the UiPath Studio. Clear? Okay, next. So in addition, assets can also be used for security purpose, it seems, because anyhow, as I said, it will store the credentials. Basically username, password is one of the mechanism to provide the security. That's in that perspective the author is telling here. As we know, all credentials are stored in encrypted format by the encryption algorithm called advanced encryption algorithm, whose key size is 256. Don't worry about this in depth about the security part. Basically it will use us all the credentials will be stored in the server in the encrypted format, it seems, right? So when an RPA developer is designing a process, it can be invoked by the developer, but its value is still hidden, like something dot something like this. It will be in encrypted form, that's it. Correct. To create a new asset in the orchestrator, we are required to open the asset page. Okay, you need to open the respective page in order to deal with the assets. Okay, and as usual, similar to the queue status, it will also display the previous assets that you already been created. And if you want to create a new asset, you can use this. And the status of this asset or the details of this asset will be given here, which type of asset it is, whether it's boolean or text, and the value of that particular asset, etc and so on. We shall see about the type and value in few minutes, after few minutes. Okay, assets of two types, it seems. One is get assets and get credential. So basically they are nothing but activities used in the UiPath Studio to request information from the server about a specific asset according to the asset name. Means if you want to see, as I said, assets will be there where assets will be there in the server. It will be there in the orchestrator server. Usually it will be in the form of an key value pair. So asset name, key value means or nothing but value, name value pair. So it will be there in this form. And obviously the RPA developer will work on UiPath Studio, right? And if they want to access these assets present in the orchestrator server, then they have to use the activities. Those activities are nothing but get asset and get credential. That's what the author is telling here. And how they will fetch, how they can able to fetch this, whether they're using get asset or get credential for that matter, based on the name, based on the asset name. That's what the author is telling here. The asset name is required for an already stored asset in the orchestrator database, so that the robot can access information stored in the asset. That's what I explained here. To do so, the robot needs permission to retrieve information from that particular asset to be used in the automation project. Obviously that is true. See, obviously it needs a permission, yeah, and giving the permissions are nothing but doing configurations, and even that doing configuration is also easy. Okay, in the orchestrator server we can get asset using the get asset activity. Okay, and you can get credential using get credential activity. That's it. So now we shall see, as I said, different types of asset values you can have in the orchestrator server. You can have text. Type of the asset can be a text. Obviously the value will be string value in that case. The type of the asset can be boolean. Obviously the values will be either true or false in that case. The type of the asset can be an integer. Obviously in that case it will have integer values. The type of the asset can be a credential. So usually in that case it holds username and password. Clear? So furthermore, we also have the following types of assets. It seems at a high level, two types of assets you can have. One is the global asset and the other one is per robot. These are the types of the assets you can have, means data types. Type of the value that asset can hold. These are different types of assets. Don't get confused with types of asset with types of asset values. So this is like data types. You can treat this as a data types. You can treat this as a types of assets. One is global asset and the one is per robot. So global, as the name itself says, this can be used by all available robots. Global, it will be available for all the robots in the orchestrator server. So per robot means this can be accessed only by a specific robot, like something like this is something like private variable, this is like a public variable, something like this. Clear? Okay, and there is another interesting component present in the orchestrator server called process. So we shall see what is the responsibility of this process. Process is responsible for deploying and uploading the package to the environment, it seems, orchestrator environment, for deploying already created packages. So first what the RPA developer will do, they will create the workflow in the UiPath Studio and they will publish this workflow and once they will publish this workflow to the orchestrator server, then that will become a package. Okay, and this process is used to deploy this package to the orchestrator environment. That's it. I hope you understood the flow. So in UiPath Studio we can search for process inside the orchestrator here activity panel. Okay, it contains should stop activity that can be used to stop a process whenever required. See this one. If you want to stop the running process, then you can use that particular activity itself. So this is a process interface or a page displayed in the orchestrator server. So process will help you, or it will support you to distribute all packages or robot machine, which makes execution faster. We can assign jobs to these processes from the jobs panel available in the, see there is one more, there will be a panel, either can you say packages here. Similarly there will be another interface for controlling the jobs. We call that as a jobs panel. Using that you can control or you can schedule the jobs. That's what the author is telling here. We shall see in the coming classes how the complete environment of the server will looks like. Okay, at every stage, a package is linked to environment and it is automatically distributed to each robot machine that belongs to the particular environment. Right? You can treat like this. There will be environment, and this environment will be associated with the robot, and robots will be associated with the packages. Something like this. Okay, at a high level. At a high level. So this is the interface where the RPA developer can able to manage the versions of the packages they have published. Okay, can you see here this one version 1.1 point something, and it also indicates which is the current version the package that the robot is referring to, and usage details, something like this. See here. Okay, whenever you make changes in the packages you created earlier and upload those changes, it creates a new version, it seems, automatically. Assume that you are dealing with a package called T2 TD2 underscore enum. See, this is first version of T2D underscore enum, next version and current version, like this. Automatically a version will be changed, and in order to update your package you can manage the versions, and if you and still you have an option to use this version also. You can use this version also by configuring it. Suppose if you want to use the current one, you can use the current one also. That's now we shall see how it will be done here. If a new update to a certain package is available, then an icon is displayed on that package itself. Something like you may have seen that install, something like this. An indicator like this, which indicates that a new version of the existing package has been available, and if you click on this, automatically the new version will be updated. That's what author is telling here. And when we are using the latest available version of the package, then this icon will be showed, it seems, to indicate that you are currently using the current version of the package. That's it. So all the activities that we are using in the studio are stored in a package called, or an I can say folder called NuGet, so which will be referred by the orchestrator. While we add a new process, the name of the environment should be the same as the robot. This is all nothing but configuration. So this allows the execution of process using respective robots. This is one constraint that you need to remember. Okay, name of the robot should match with the name of the environment, so that it will be easy for the orchestrator to process the to handle the robots. Clear? Okay, and this is the last concept that I want to address in this particular class, called deploying a process. Okay, deploying process basically refers to the distribution of the packages to the robots available in the environment. So after successfully publishing your project from UiPath Studio, so these are the steps that you need to follow in order to deploy a process. It's in the what author is telling here. Okay, so first we shall see the steps one by one. So first you need to go to the orchestrator server. Okay, open the orchestrator web page. So obviously there will be an option called process option. Click on that. So process window will appear. Now click on plus button to add a package. The deploy process window will be, so once you click this, so will be displayed, deploy process window will be displayed. Now choose the desired package name from the drop down list. Obviously it is a drop down list, something, it will looks like this. It will list the packages. You need to choose the correct one or the required one. So here and it will ask for the description, and the description is optional, something like this. See, this is a selection box. It will display the packages. You need to choose the required one. Okay, see here the user has chosen enum, and description, this is the description option. It is optional, and then you need to create. So once you select this, and if you want to give a description, you can give description here, and then click create. That's it. So once you do this, then you can say successfully you have deployed the process. Clear? Okay, so in the next class we shall see how we can able to go ahead with an orchestrator server to control or to monitor the robots. The last topics that we have to discuss in this chapter is how we can able to use this orchestrator server to control the bots and to monitor the bots, and last but not the least, licensing, which is once again straightforward. Clear? So with this I will end the session. If you have any doubt regarding this, so you can please contact me. Thank you, one and all.